Hey everyone and welcome back, I'm Simon bringing you more Magic the Gathering lore. Today we start a story that's long and complicated, one that's had more impact on the multiverse and how we see the lore in MTG than almost any other single event. Its occurrence marked the end of an era and the beginning of what we know now, but in its wake, we've lost so much more than people realize. This is the tale of the Great Mending. So for this story, I'm gonna have to break the video up into sections. I know some of you kinda hate when content creators do that, but if I were to include everything I wanted to into a single video, it would probably be over 40 minutes long. People don't have the time to sit and watch a mini movie on the mending, so sorry, but I'm gonna have to split it up. In this video, let's examine what the Great Mending actually is, what it was caused by, and how did it impact the multiverse. It all begins on the plane of Dominaria. Dominaria is a hugely influential plane in the multiverse, while many of its inhabitants are unaware of it. This world is known as the nexus of the multiverse, the center around which the rest of the multiverse turns. As the nexus, Dominaria is at the middle of an infinite number of other planes, connecting to all their mana lines throughout the blind eternity. This means Dominaria is one of the richest planes in terms of mana in the multiverse, allowing it to restore itself, influence other worlds, and brew powerful mages. But this strong connection to countless other worlds also means Dominaria often has to bear those planes' hardships and strife. And should Dominaria ever fall to the void of the blind eternity, like a domino effect, so would every other plane in the multiverse. With such an important role, you'd expect those who live in the multiverse to be extremely protective of Dominaria. But throughout the years, the plane's seen nothing but destruction and misery. As it turns out, being at the center of everything means you're also surrounded by potential enemies. Luckily, for every would-be conqueror or army of monsters who came seeking Dominaria's control, there have been protectors, many of which being Planeswalkers. Planeswalkers were once the shining jewels of the multiverse, the ultimate figure of mana made flesh. These powerful beings ascended from every sentient race across the multiverse, yet it was still one of the rarest events to have happen. With so few beings actually becoming Planeswalkers, it was no surprise that their power became coveted. Planeswalkers prior to the Mending are not like the Planeswalkers we have today. Back then, Planeswalkers were more comparable to gods than the mortal races. They had an almost infinite amount of mana connected through them at all times. With so much material at their command, it's easy to see how these ancient beings were capable of doing the impossible with their magic. In another video, I'll go over some of the great feats conducted by these pre-Mending Planeswalkers. For this video, however, all you need to know is that they were vastly more powerful than they are today. Planeswalkers, in a sense, were much like Dominaria, connected deeply to the rest of the multiverse thanks to the mana lines that passed through them. But, like Dominaria, this deep connection also meant that Planeswalkers had the ability to devastate planes and the multiverse as a whole with their magic, either intentionally or by accident. And believe me, worlds face catastrophes at the hands of these Planeswalkers all the time. Whenever a Planeswalker used a great deal of mana or pushed a plane to its limit, sometimes resulting in the loss of the plane, Dominaria, being the nexus of the multiverse, took the brunt of the consequences. Each of these major events resulted in a disturbance that was visible on Dominaria itself. These are known as rifts. Rifts occurred thanks to the meddling of powerful Planeswalkers across the multiverse. It was like they were a recording of their actions, playing over and over again in the skies of Dominaria. Each of these rifts had a certain personality to them, differing between how each were formed, but they all had one thing in common: they cut Dominaria off from its rich supply of mana. As more and more events occurred and more rifts popped up, Dominaria became more cut off from the rest of the multiverse. Without a fresh supply of sufficient mana to keep the plane healthy, Dominaria became vulnerable, enabling a war to tear through the world. This great conflict was perpetrated by a godly being known as Corona, an avatar formed from the very mana of Dominaria. Corona herself has a very rich and complicated history, one fitting for a video on its own. So, for the short of it, Corona, being the mana of Dominaria, could perform a great number of duties on the world, but her purpose was lost to her. In a mad dash to find herself, the Avatar ran afoul with Yawgmoth, the powerful leader of the Phyrexians. The Phyrexians did what they do best and corrupted the Avatar, changing her into a mad zealot that turned her followers into an army. raining misery and blood on all of Dominaria. Of course, the heroes of the plane eventually ended Corona's campaign, but not before the damage had already been done. With Corona's destruction, the loss of mana proved to be too great, and with the rifts locking Dominaria out from new sources of mana, the plane wasn't able to heal itself. The world became desolate and distorted. The rifts shifted time and space, ripping at the very fabric of Dominaria. It was clear, if something wasn't done quickly, then the nexus of the multiverse could collapse into nothing. It took the combined efforts and sacrifices of a number of Planeswalkers to successfully seal off the major rifts, those which hindered Dominaria's mana flow. Great figures like Jeska, Karn, and Teferi all lost in one way or another thanks to the rifts, but through their efforts, the rifts were closed and Dominaria filled with mana once again, saving the plane. As the rifts closed, the multiverse reshaped its relationship with the Planeswalker Spark. When before, mana poured endlessly into these selected beings, now their access has been cut drastically. Never again will the multiverse naturally produce Planeswalkers as potent as we've seen in the past, and thus, the Age of Power gave way to our modern understanding of the multiverse. There's a lot more information here than I've included in this introductory video. The Great Mending impacted much more of the multiverse than just the Planeswalkers. I'll go over more of that in greater detail in another video. I also want to make a few videos describing what exactly caused the greater rifts and how different Planeswalkers are now compared to the pre-Mending days, so be on the lookout for those videos later on. For now though, I want to know what you guys think about the Mending in general. Do you wish we still had the powerful pre-Mending Planeswalkers, or was this event needed to reel in their strength? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, consider throwing it a like and subbing to the channel. It goes a long way in supporting future content. You can also support this channel by becoming a patron on Patreon and following me on social media. Find links to all those in the description below. As always guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.